We have been using the dual root zone method for several years now and never had an issue with the aquaponic grow bed being ground zero for fungus gnats until we started using compost. To solve this, we're adding beneficial nematodes to the pots themselves to take a biological approach. These nematodes are non-GMO native species that attack the gnats at the source in the compost layer of our dual root zones. I chose this method over something like mosquito bits because the beneficial nematodes were not created in a lab by a big ag company. To incorporate the beneficials into my system, I mixed some of the nematodes with water from the fish tank and then watered each individual pot in the grow bed with the solution I created. This process is actually one of the biggest advantages to setting up a dual root zone in an aquaponic grow bed. Instead of just dumping the nematodes directly into the water and hoping they'll reach the correct places, I am directly inoculating the fungus gnat hotspots while also fertilizing with the plant tonic we create. Now, we've obviously battled fungus gnats in the past because we have quite the plant collection, but never to this extent in the actual grow bed.
Okay, shut up. Okay, shut up.
Hi, what are you doing? Beneficial nematodes can be used indoors and/or outdoors to address a variety of different pest issues organically. In this case, I'm watering beneficials into our in-ground grow beds to address a grub issue, and it was important I do it at night because the beneficial nematodes are super sensitive to sun exposure. Hi. So I thought it would be cool to also try adding some carnivorous plants. Alright, so this is it. Now I know with carnivorous plants, you're supposed to use only distilled water when watering them. But I found a channel that I'll link down below that specializes in carnivorous plants. And the gentleman on there actually, oh perfect, this is good for compost. The gentleman on there actually said that he uses carnivorous plants in his goldfish pond and he has had great success, so we will see about that. Alright, here's my first one. It's a Venus flytrap. All this is great carbon for compost. This is the next one. And all right, so to set this up, I have some pots right here, and then I have some sphagnum moss that I never use. I ordered it a long time ago when I was really into orchids. And I learned that sphagnum isn't the most sustainable material, so I really tried to challenge myself and start using materials that I could repurpose over and over again. So this sphagnum has kind of been sitting in my closet waiting to be used, and I figured that no time like the present to use them. In general, carnivorous plants grow in bogs and on rocks and around trees, so the sphagnum moss will help create a really good home for it. What I'm gonna do is put them in the sphagnum moss right now, have them on this table, which is literally right across from the aquaponic grow bed, and I'm gonna acclimate them to my home first before I transition them into the aquaponic system. The reason for that is I know for a fact that these were not grown in an aquaponic system before they were shipped, so I don't want there to be too many changes to the Carnivorous Plants' environment. So I'm gonna acclimate them first in the sphagnum, which is probably a medium that they were more used to, and then once they've acclimated to my home in about a week or two, then I'll transition them to the grow bed. So hopefully we will have some smooth sailing and no dead plants. All right, so I'm super camera awkward, so I'm gonna give you a bird's eye view of what I'm doing right now. All right, this sphagnum moss is completely dehydrated. So once I get all this sphagnum into the bowl, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rehydrate it with distilled water. From what I could research, these plants really enjoy distilled water, and I just so happen to have some, so that's what I'm using to acclimate them to my home. I don't want to start off right away with changing too many environmental factors, because then I'm really just kind of preventing because then I'm really just making all odds against them. So right now, breaking up all the larger chunks. Now I want this to be moist but not sopping wet. So I want to make sure that all the bigger pieces are kind of broken up, because when substrates are this dry, they actually can be hydrophobic, which means water fearing or water repelling. And what that does is basically water will run right through it and not hydrate this at all. So I'm kind of breaking up all the pieces to make sure that water is absorbed in all those nook and crannies. So in case you're not familiar, sphagnum is not considered necessarily a sustainable resource. I have a video on more details about why it's not sustainable, but basically sphagnum moss grows in bogs just like these little guys, and basically sphagnum is pretty much an ideal ecosystem for a lot of little critters, including animals and insects. And when we use it for our gardening purposes, we're kind of taking a fungal approach and basically depleting natural ecosystems. So there are alternatives to sphagnum. If you can avoid it, I would say it's a best practice, because there's quite a few different mediums you can use other than sphagnum moss. For me, again, I'm just using this because I have it. I never use it anymore, and I don't want it to go to waste, especially since I'm aware now of the impact it has on ecosystems when we harvest it. So I have some distilled water here. I'm just gonna hydrate it. I still feel some dry pieces in here, so I'm probably gonna add a little more. So basically, you know your sphagnum moss is well hydrated because you can squeeze it out and some liquid comes out, but it's not like a full puddle. I'm gonna add just, and I'm gonna wring some of this out when I'm putting it in the pots, because I don't want it to be overly wet to the point that root rot occurs in the actual pots over here. Alright. Even if you don't have a aquaponic system, I still think they're cool plants, and it's worth trying to grow. Okay, so I smell some rot going on, and the roots aren't super white. So what I'm gonna do is just keep an eye on these guys. I don't want them to be overly wet, but I do want them to be hydrated. Hopefully this will help. I really want to make this work because, one, I think it would look so cool to have some carnivorous plants in the aquaponic system. I really love the idea of carnivorous plants to help manage fungus gnats, but these are little babies, so it's also going to take some time before they'll be like really consuming everything that tries to infiltrate my home. All right. There's the first one. Oh, this one has a better root system. The roots are more white. Looks like it has a lot of dirt on it. I'm gonna go rinse this one off. Okay, so I rinsed it off. Tap water isn't ideal for these guys, but I also wanted to make sure that I cleaned off a lot of the dirt that was on the leaves itself, because I didn't want to prevent it from being able to photosynthesize properly, because it is still a plant and the leaves are like solar panels in a way. They're the energy house for the plant. So in general, if you have a plant or a fish that's new to your collection, in general, it's a great idea to make sure to quarantine it for a little bit, making sure that in the case of fish that they're not sick at all or have any like internal parasites. In the case of plants, it's making sure that you're not bringing in a pest infestation like mealybugs or thrips or scale into your collection, and contaminating either the rest of your fish or the rest of your plants. Yeah, this one, it may have been the media that it was in. So hopefully this guy does okay. He looks healthy on top, so I have faith that he will do well here. Plants can also carry diseases too, like fish. So yeah, that quarantine process is really important to make sure that you're keeping the ecosystem that you have created as healthy as possible. Probably about a week in, what I'll start doing is watering this with tank water. So the first few days I'll obviously be only watering with that distilled water, but after the first few days I'll start slowly incorporating the fish tank water, so there's no shock to the actual systems when I put these in the grow bed up top. And these are my new carnivorous plants. So another thing that I thought would be worthy of mentioning is that I am keeping them right next to their future home. This is the same light that they will be exposed to, but also temperature. And not to mention the fact that the fungus gnats are in the dual root zone right now, but they fly all around, so I'll be able to feed my plants insects by them being right next to the bed. Also too, it's brain fart. Also too, In general, whenever you're bringing plants or fish or frogs, turtles, whatever it may be, you're always gonna have pest issues. There's no avoiding it. You can bring stuff in onto your plants by just rubbing up against brush outside or a plant outside and not realizing it, and then coming in and then tending to your plants. So in general, pests are inevitable. I hope by using these carnivorous plants in my aquaponic grow bed, it'll just be a way to proactively maintain the actual numbers of fungus gnats. So in the grand scheme of things, fungus gnats are part of the food web and provide balance to any ecosystem, whether it's indoors or outdoors. So with maintaining these carnivorous plants indoors, I hope to also add to that balance, since right now the fungus gnat numbers are kind of high, and this will be able to help provide additional balance. As always, thank you so much for watching our channel. If you have any experience with carnivorous plants, I would love it if you comment down below and offered any tips or suggestions, since this is my first time and I am experimenting with it. We welcome you into our home by clicking that subscribe button. So if you haven't done so already, please like, comment, and share. Not to mention subscribe to our channel, and we look forward to posting future content about these little guys. Peace and love to all.